Hey, it's Yazuki Wolf. I'm a game designer living in Japan, and I want to take a look at Blue Protocol. Now, the global release was unfortunately delayed to an undisclosed date in 2024, but it has just been released in Japan, so let's go ahead and see what the experience is like, at least from the Japanese server side. A couple things I like about the way they're doing their character creation here. Like, you notice right away that you have both the front and back. I mean, it's a small thing, but it's kind of nice to be able to see both the front view and back view at the same time, and it rotates together. And you'll notice that when I change the face, it also changes the settings for your body. So this S-size body is only for the young face, so you can't have a small body with the old face. So that's an interesting choice. I guess since there doesn't seem to be races, this is sort of like a way to have some kind of variety, but I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing. I don't know if you like it or dislike it. It's just kind of an interesting thing they're doing. Next off, we have our faces, and this is another interesting choice they have here, where they actually have this lineup of different faces with different expressions, and you can actually filter through these. Filter's not the right word. You can scroll through these and get a couple different variations. And I kind of like this, but I'm not 100% sold on it, because you can see very clearly the kind of silhouette here, whereas from this angle, it's a little hard to make out exactly what it's going to look like in a 360-degree view. I would also like to have sort of a directly side view, or not quite as dynamic angles as they have here, because it makes it a little bit hard to visualize what it's going to look like in 3D. There are a number of classes in Blue Protocol, but you don't need to stress about what to choose, because in a similar style to other games like Final Fantasy XIV, your class can be changed at any time by simply equipping that class's weapon, with the trade-off being that each class levels independently. Now, right off the bat, as you can see, the game looks great. Quite impressive toon shading, especially in the cutscenes. There's parts where, despite them being actual 3D models, it looks like it's a 2D drawn anime at a lot of points. Almost looks like a 2D drawn animation. I mean, there's parts you can kind of tell if you look closely, but it's getting really good. And then just like the background, like if you just take this background right here, that could be the background of an anime easily. Like if you get close, you'll notice that it actually is pretty low poly. Like here, like yeah, if you look at these boxes, like these are probably just straight up like boxes. there's not a lot of like actual geometry going on there in the 3D model, but the hand-drawn textures, when you look at it a little bit further out, looks perfect. Looks great. They've done a lot with just painting. Like the top of this, I don't see any. This might have a normal map. Yeah, I would bet there probably are normal maps on that. As for the gameplay, I'd say the combat is passable. It doesn't really break the mold per se, but it does hit the major marks and lives up to what you'd expect coming into a modern action combat MMO. The fighting system itself, like I said, it's not like groundbreaking, but it's fun enough. Like you have a fairly good variety of skills here. I could say do a poisoning shot and then do another shot that will like stun them, and then I could like drop a fire from the sky on them. Like here I could do this, and I might be able to stun him a little bit with this one. I'm not sure. Yeah, see, that stunned him a little bit, but I can start hitting him like this. Maybe get like some dots going. I could drop my summon on him. My other summon is mostly healing, so it's not really any reason for me to bring it since I haven't taken any hits, but I mean, you have that as well. I also have another healing skill I could use to help myself out or to help out other people that are fighting. And you have this nice little dodge mechanic too, where like see he's about to attack, I hit my control key to dodge those. And this guy is level 13 while I think I'm level 8, so it is totally doable for you to take on stronger enemies than your level, if you have the skill to do so. I really like those types of mechanics. So the fighting itself is enjoyable enough. In addition to the open world content, there's also a good number of dungeons and even raid bosses to take on. And I think I could say that a number of the bosses have some really enjoyable mechanics that just feel great to engage in and master. Where I ran into difficulty, however, was the style of progression in this game. It falls back on the standard town hub with NPC quest givers style of chain quest progression, which I have just completely outgrown. But then on top of that, they also add on adventure rank and various battle score checks that further limit your progression. The issue is that you actually don't get your battle score up by leveling. If the weapon you're using is higher level than you, then leveling up to the level of your weapon will increase your battle score. But when your weapon is lower than your level, like in my case where I'm level 8 and my weapon's level 2, well then, increasing my level won't do anything to my battle score. I have to actually increase my equipment. So I have to either get the next level weapon, or I have to fill out more of these imagine spots here. Battle score is an indicator of your overall strength, and is largely determined by the gear you have equipped. There are numerous parts along the story and along the progression of the game that you will be locked to your particular battle score. Also, the quests available to you in general will be locked to your battle rank, which is unlocked through a combination of your battle score and your progression in something called the adventure board. So this is another type of quest beyond these quests that you can track. You have another quest in here, which you have all these little icons, and you look inside here and you'll find, okay, I cleared this quest, and now I have to get the reward from that. And then my next thing, I'll read the description here. It wants me to kill Ramboboa, is a type of monster in the Monster Hill area, and I've killed 4 out of 10 of them. Let's see, okay, here... Yeah, so here's a recipe, so I probably want to do this to get this recipe. So this is a recipe for an imagine. There isn't any armor or traditional gear per se outside of your weapon, so instead you need to craft and equip these things called imagine. There are 2, well, more than 2, but for now, let's just say, for the sake of your battle score, there are 2 types of imagine that you are concerned with. First, you have your battle imagine, which act essentially like combat summons. And then you have the enhance imagine, which give you passive stats, much like how armor might act in a more traditional MMO. Now, your character level is also a factor in this, but only up to the point that your level needs to match or exceed the level of your equipped gear. So for example, if you are level 9 but your gear is level 2, your battle score is essentially capped to level 2, and you don't gain any additional battle score despite your level being higher than that. So this is what I really like. If I click on this, and I notice that I actually have a level 25 item in my inventory. That's this one right here. But as you can see, it shows level 20 with a down arrow in red, and this is telling me that although this is a level 25 item, when I equip it, it will be downgraded to my level of 20. But I can still equip it. So there we go, we have our weapon at level 20. Now, I'm still not sure why there's such big gaps between the weapons. So far I have a level 1 weapon, level 2, I got a level 10, and then a 25. I don't know why there's no weapons in between. I feel like if they had more in-betweens, it would feel a little bit more rewarding like you're progressing. I feel like there's a long period of time where you're just not getting new weapons. And I don't know, for me, I think that's weapons and equipment is something I really like about progression of these types of games, but it is what it is. So, on one hand, this has the benefit of allowing you to equip high-level gear at any time, which I really like, and I think this would be a great system to mimic in other games. But unfortunately, coupled with the fairly limited gear progression, it ends up feeling a bit more constrictive than liberating. And you may end up spending long stretches of levels with very little improvement. Yeah, so I went a long while with my level 2 weapon. I was using this for, from level... I don't know, 3-ish to level 9. I was using this the whole time. That being said, I was able to adjust, and eventually I found myself banging through ranks and clearing adventure boards without much trouble. I'm getting the hang of it. I'm definitely starting to bang out these adventure boards and enjoying this. This is probably the most important thing. The quests, I feel, also are kind of like a thing that you can kind of do or not do. I kind of just leave these here, and if I happen upon them on my way, I'll do them, but otherwise I just ignore them. The main thing, I think, if you're going to start the game and you're not sure where you want to focus, I'd say focus on the adventure board and focus on the first one, your adventure rank. I think this is a good point for me to put together my closing thoughts. Blue Protocol is a good MMO. It's not great, it's not bad, it's good. And depending on what you're looking for, that might be enough. In terms of its strengths, The visual style of the game is very clearly its biggest strength in my opinion. The anime cell shading is quite possibly the best I've seen, and the hand-painted textures, they really look amazing. I also like a few of the game's systems. Nothing super groundbreaking, but the ability to equip weapons above your current level, being able to place custom map markers with your own description, and other such UI elements are nice quality of life additions. It looks like they also give you a large amount of inventory storage, which unfortunately isn't usually the case with free-to-play titles. Finally, the story is also enjoyable, especially if you're into that sort of anime style of storytelling. There's still a lot of unvoiced dialogue, a lot of places that I find myself skipping, but the parts that are voiced are usually quite good. As for negatives, the amount of quests you can accept, as well as the amount of quests you can actively track, is limited, which forces you to micromanage a bit, or just spend a lot of time wandering back and forth along points on the map. And even if you plan well, you will still often get new quests that sends you right back to where you came from. The pace for leveling isn't bad, but upgrades are few and far between. Also, the amount of farming needed to get materials for items is relatively fair at first, but seems to ramp up quite a bit later on. The combat is passable, dare I say enjoyable, but it isn't anything more than you would generally expect from a good action combat MMORPG. And unfortunately, there isn't a lot of variety within the classes. Switching weapons changes your class, which is nice, but it also slows your leveling because your level drops when you switch classes. And there's only one weapon per class, so as long as you're sticking with one class, you're only going to have one weapon the whole time. And lastly, and this may not be an issue for a lot of people, but it's your standard sort of checklist style of progression with little room for deviation. That being said, if you want a standard MMO experience with the added benefit of looking like an anime with beautiful environments, well, Blue Protocol may very well be the game for you. So that's all I got to say for my first impressions. I think I'm going to probably keep playing this game for a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a long-running game of mine, but I will be playing it for a bit longer, at least trying to max out one or two different classes. Till next time, live boldly and be creative. Yoroshiku.
よし